We'll have to see what we do in Champion Select. And the late game utility of Lee Sin will not be seen this game.
Well, there we go. It's just Smithy's kind of favorite jungler as it's turned into.
Yeah.
Even in the spring split, he was playing a lot of that Lee Sin. Its main use is that he can survive on low farm, which really allows Mandatory Cloud to get the huge amount of farm, and that's a smart ban by TSM.
Kazakh's coming in, also a smart ban. A Mandatory Cloud, levels 4 to his level 1, was still able to come back and carry Vulcun through their game. So they don't want that in his hands.
The last day North America has to deal with this particular patch of Kazakhs, because the 3.8 Kazakhs is a much different animal altogether. I think they're definitely banning out Reginald here, because Vulcun knows the key to being TSM is beating up Reginald a little bit.
Yeah, and that Reginald getting beaten up on the picks and bans here. Taking out a little bit of Karthus. They want to force that Kazakh, so man,
Bans are slow here.
Yeah, they are super slow. These teams are considering each other.
That the bans are much faster.
Last game it was like, done. We're in game. Sona, real.
I like the Sona ban. Against Bloodwater,
Yeah.
specifically, it cuts down on a lot of the versatility that Vulcun can bring in, especially because even if Psycho Sid wants to play something like Rumble, Sona's really the best lockdown support for that, to try to keep people inside the equalizer. And
everything I said was left up.
Every single game in Sona. What was this?
Rise, Jace, Kennen, everything has been left up, and they're like, what do we take? This wasn't supposed to happen. Nobody knows what they want now because it's all up. Yeah,
I feel like Dyrus
for Dyrus, that would be so huge. That's a safe lane for him. And even Shy himself was like, you know, I think that was going to be an easy lane. And he's like, I have to give Dyrus more respect now than I thought he should have gotten.
But another one of the takeaways Dyrus had from the All-Star game was the power of top lane Rise. He was saying, I'm going to play it every game, because he had to deal with Shy playing that as well. They're definitely letting this tick down, because whatever they don't take, they're leaving up for Vulcun, and they're really trying to plan this one out.
Psycho Sid will have a Kennen in his hands if it is up. Wow. They hover on this one, maybe to play a little bit of a mind game here, but no, they decide to lock it in. And there was some good plays from Dyrus to Reginald from Shen with Stand United.
TSM plays quite well with Shen.
Yep.
Now that they've kind of got their communication worked out, they say, hey, Dyrus, be ready to ult in the fight. He's watching. He's watching for it. He's going to be able to go.
Got it.
And if they do have to worry about the Jace, if it's a Jace in the same lane, Shen can survive that type of poke.
Right.
So it's not a bad pick against Jace. Shen is a very standard laner in the sense that he can survive almost any matchup.
Maybe they were hoping, like, if they take Jace, it'll go top lane and they won't take Kennen. No, they're going to take Kennen as well. Boom and boom. And maybe go into Man Cloud on the Jace or the Kennen. We haven't really seen him do the switch up of either. He's been playing that Kazakhs, playing a little aggressive.
Yeah, and what's he going to end up going for here? Diana is still available. That's one of the things that he hasn't picked up yet. But Diana plus Shen might be a little too bruisery for TSM. It would mean they need a lot of damage in other places, which, although we spent the whole game talking about the Odd Ones Jungle Elise, it would leave a hole in the team comp that allows that to exist and be good, because they'd have enough general tankiness elsewhere to dive into Vulcun. But we'll see how they end up going out with this one.
Special looks like he will want Thresh. Had a really nice Janna at the All-Star game, but he's got that champion pool and he's going to utilize it.
And Thresh is also denying Bloodwater what I think Bloodwater's second support has sort of become. It's also X Special's second support.
Yeah.
I think Lulu is going to be the thing that falls in afterwards if Vulcun decides to pick up their support, maybe in the end of the pick phase, but that might be the TSM comp that they're going for. They do not see a problem with the Jungle Elise, but with the Shen, it actually makes a lot more sense for TSM to pick that for the Odd One.
We'll have to see what Wild Turtle goes on. He has his Draven, a pretty good skirmisher, which would be great for this team comp since everybody kind of has to get in close, and he's not really going to have anybody on the backside peeling for him if Thresh is going in.
And this is also what we talked about in the pregame, is if Zuna can get on the late game hyper carries. He's selected Tristana right now, has yet to lock it in, but this is a dangerous pick because he's picking this completely blind into TSM's AD carry, and he also knows there's already a Thresh, so if they lane against them, Thresh has some of the highest lane presence of all the supports, just being able to shut down enemy AD carry farm. If Zuna picks this, he is not going to be strong for a large portion of the game, and Vulcun is very much saying that they are going for the late game. Still hasn't locked it in.
This could hurt, but it would be good. They have the knockback if they have a Shen or a Repel. They may try to stick with that Tristana. We saw it effective in the previous game when, with the poke, they were just trying to keep away. And the Sejuani getting locked in.
We thought we were going to see a lot more Sejuani bans before this one, but in the previews, we were saying how Sejuani is only pretty much weak to highly mobile teams. And I wonder if TSM is going to block out the rest of their team with highly mobile people. Draven is not necessarily that mobile. I think Sejuani can kind of run at him fairly aggressively. Wild Turtle will have to be extremely cautious with his positioning if he goes with Draven. He's had some bad experiences so far in the few games on Ezreal, Blue Ezreal in particular, but that's kind of a smarter pick against the Sejuani. We'll see how he goes. Draven.
Wow, I like this matchup. Looks like Reginald's going to be getting Rise. They were going to switch that up there. They decided not to, and he does go for Draven. We heard this previously that he wasn't really participating in the fights and he was being a farmer. We'll see if TSM has kind of wrangled that back into control, and we're going to have Wild Turtle back in these fights.
And we're going to see some really clumped fights too. Rise plus Shen plus Elise all just go to the same spot. Draven's only 550 range, and Thresh usually goes in with everyone else. While they do have a lot of shields and a lot of general tankiness, they are not spacing themselves out. So they're going to be inside Sejuani ultimates and Kennen ultimates, which will be dangerous. This is going to be an explosive game if we start getting the team fights. And you know, what else can we expect from TSM?
These are, you're right, they are going to be crazy. Kennen coming in from one side. You said TSM wants to mob onto the team, and we have a Lulu as well for the safety of that person being mobbed out.
And Vulcan's team composition specifically will now have the Jace in the mid lane against Reginald's Rise, which to me says Mandatory Cloud will have a bit of an edge on Reginald unless something crazy happens. He should be able to outpoke him a little bit and also potentially make Reginald go into the armor itemization a little before he wants to. A lot of Rises have been getting away with going Spirit Visage at the end of their tier Rod of Ages combo because it gives them the cooldown reduction anyway. He'll definitely have to be going for the Frozen Heart, which might leave Reginald open to some Kennen ultimates. Once again, very clumpy team fights are going to be coming out, but if one thing TSM's done with the Rise pick, they may have matched the late game of Vulcun, so this is a very close game to call.
You said they needed a little bit more of something to get in there in that fight with damage, and they brought tank and damage, so they kind of synergized that very well together in that pick. They filled the hole of a little bit more tankiness with the odd one. We'll have to see. It's kind of tough lanes to gank here for the odd one, though. It's going to be a Kennen in the top lane, a Jason mid, and you have Tristana Lulu bottom. So he has his work cut out for him.
And the odd one usually sits around Reginald's lane as well, which might be what he tries to do again. If Reginald gets going, not even talking about if he's playing on Rise, because that's especially so, TSM wins games. TSM's 1-2 coming into this. Vulcun is 2-1. Obviously, they're looking to even the score. And track record-wise, Vulcun and TSM have very close games.
We'll see what Reginald can do. Like you said, if he gets going, usually you want to see Reginald be the second one diving behind blue buff second tier turret at 5 minutes into the game.
See him go.
Yeah, it could. Poison ready behind us. Vulcun versus Team Solo Mid as we get onto the Rift. Coming in all these games today. Game number 3 on your Super Week. Summer Split beginning this weekend. Thanks for joining us throughout these 3 entire days.
Oh, yeah.
An amazing amount of views because of you guys at home staying up with your parties. Make sure you got your popcorn and your sodas for this next game because it's going to be a long battle.
And just based off Vulcan's early run down the lane, you generally don't... With the Jace, I believe he started gate. They're trying to rush to the triangle brush of TSM's bottom lane and catch someone coming towards that area. Because they had the Jace acceleration gate, they can get there faster than the enemy team. TSM's nowhere near, though.
So there isn't going to be any guard on the tri-brush. None whatsoever. They are moving power and numbers towards the top side just to get these wards down. Volatile, explosive spider going out. Looks like they're out back to safety. Whether they are going to try and deny something here or just stick with the golems, I think they're not going to find too much.
Yeah, the one thing that has an advantage here for Vulcun is normally when you invade this aggressively, you're at least walking through a few wards. The fact that TSM went all the way for enemy red side wards but didn't ward their own red side whatsoever means they got to be very careful, which is why they're all staying grouped up, because they're kind of expecting to run into some trouble.
And teams have had to watch Velocity or Vulcun so far. That ward has been placed at Golem every time now.
It's been done by more teams than Vulcun, and maybe TSM will expect it because it's becoming more of a standard strategy here. Vulcun is looking for a delayed invade, and they're still not tipped off to where TSM will be because TSM hasn't even looked at the double Golem wards yet.
They have wardens protecting the blue, so that's going to be safe for the odd one. They know nothing's coming from the tri-bush invade at 140 top side, but the bottom side is still a question. Oh man, this could be a very scary walk. It looks like they could stay in mid.
Yeah, X-Special did not see anything there, neither did Wild Turtle. There's a lot of question marks going on. You can see X-Special and Wild Turtle are going for a delayed blue invade. Vulcun has the complete mind game advantage here because TSM has not spotted a single one member of their team in the last 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
You got to tell me Vulcun just saw them. Actually, they're going to come up on the back side of Reginald here. They may be able to get some attack down. Jace is going to be there. No damage, but a 2-minute flash burned on Reggie. And
right away, Vulcun's decided to do a 2v1 mid against Reginald. Bloodwater as well will help shove that lane very quickly since Ryze's wave clear is not that good compared to other mages. That is a smart move early on by Vulcun.
A really, really smart move, knowing if they pressured hard enough, yeah, we'll blow flash. The kill would be, you know, to boot, but a great strategy to get that pressure down quick. So the odd one is definitely going to have to be towards mid now.
But one thing that just happened actually is xMithy used his smite in TSM's jungle, which meant he could not take that blue buff safely with X Special harassing him. He didn't necessarily spend enough time on the red to get the pull, and now the steal threat is there, but there could very well be some fighting going on.
There's a lot of level 1 still coming into this. We only have a level 2 xMithy, and Odd One, the jungler's been able to pick up 2 cams. He tries to get xMithy, knowing that's where the damage is coming from, and the tank is. They go back onto ManCloud. X Special actually not taking that much of damage. First blood to the Odd One. They're going to continue this on. They have to be careful. Zuna's not even moving in mid, and he has people coming up behind him. Looks like he's going to start to take that pressure into consideration.
That was really well played by TSM, and it worked for a couple reasons. Wild Turtle stayed in the bottom lane long enough to get level 2 before he decided to come up, and everything cascaded off of xMithy not having smite. It gave the Odd One time to run up here and threaten the blue buff, and then Vulcun really just overstayed their welcome. Once xMithy realized he didn't have smite, he needed to concede that to TSM.
We'll have to see if Zuna and Bloodwater can push this turret down in mid. It seems like they have Reginald under his turret. xMithy grabs up red, forced to go back after that from the engagement previously. Shouldn't hurt him too much. He should have that golem and back in, or Spirit Stone and back in.
It'll be okay for him. I believe he's sitting on 420 gold, so if he wanted the Spirit Stone, xMithy could have picked it up, but instead he went for a cloth armor. Sejuani actually has a lot of damage in the jungle, but not necessarily that much sustain, so there's only a slight damage increase towards the Butcher's Blade from the Spirit Stone, so the cloth armor might be smart.
Looks like a fast turret here for Team Solo Mid. One of the quickest. I believe it was about 4:45 for the previous, 5:15 just after that, and we're consecutively getting lower. And here it goes, 4 minutes and 35 seconds. They take it out, 10 seconds privy to the last.
And I believe this lane swap has not worked out whatsoever for Vulcun, mainly because Mandatory Cloud was never able to get down there. He started to help the blue buff invade, and he died for it, and that just allowed TSM the power to push that lane freely. Vulcun never got defenses there, and also Bloodwater was helping as well, so Zuna never got the shove on Reginald in the first place.
Where is Mandatory Cloud rather. He is actually down back at 4 CS. xMithy's been able to grab up more, so we'll have to see ManCloud now left on an island again. He was behind this game. We'll see if he can repeat the last game he played in this situation.
ManCloud's going to need a lot more help if he wants to be able to get to those situations, because he has been shut down a lot. Just the Fairy Charm,
he's level 2
not even near the tier. Exactly. He had no business going to those lanes because Wild Turtle was just running free with Draven, extra levels from that free lane he took earlier.
So the push still going in there, trying to get as much damage on that mid turret, and they haven't even, they got it down to half HP. Reginald coming back to lane. He has got himself his tier, hasn't had too much trouble farming at the turret because he has been full aggressed in that mid lane after losing flash at 2 minutes.
Exactly. The one benefit that TSM had, though, is they created enough pressure elsewhere in the jungle that Reginald could get away with not having his flash up. As well, when you're 2v1ing with the Tristana, the whole purpose is kind of to shove, so having Reginald's flash down wasn't as punishing as if it was in a 1v1 lane and he was somewhat pushed up, because as long as he's at his turret, the flash doesn't necessarily matter.
And something we haven't looked at yet, the Kinku order in the top lane, Shen versus Kennen. I was going to say Shen versus Psycho Sid, but that wouldn't work. Shen versus Kennen in the top lane. A little bit more harassy from Kennen, but you can see that Dyrus knows he's just going to take some shurikens. They're pretty steady in CS. It was Psycho Sid getting that grab on 17 more as Dyrus has just gone back, so he's going to clean that up.
And Kennen's early strength is in the lane for the most part, especially when you go Dorn's Blade on Kennen against Shen, who is a melee attacker. The harass is there, and a 47 to 30 is not a surprising number. It's not like Dyrus is getting super outplayed there.
Right. So it looks like they should have enough damage. No, actually, to take down this turret. Reginald throws down the ultimate, clears out the wave quickly. Desperate power, and they look to continue as Elise comes in.
If Vulcun can get that turret before Draven pulls anywhere else, that early game will be okay for them. But you can see TSM looking to stop him.
No ulti on Bloodwater in middle. It's looking a 4-6 fight there. They continue to go out. Here's Xpecial finding Smithy. Both of them actually finding each other as they trade damage.
And Smithy's early jungle hasn't looked that potent. He's one level behind the odd one. None of his ganks have really worked out. So much of it going off of the early invade that TSM put on him. Sejuani doesn't necessarily come back that well if she's behind unless they get really good team fights once she hits level 6. And this is an early dragon attempt by TSM.
Having vision of Sejuani in middle, and it looks like Smithy has just smited a minion, so they will not have any trouble grabbing this.
No, pretty much a dragon for the turret.
Yeah.
They recognized that the turret was low and that Vulcun was putting a lot of time and resources into getting it, and TSM was okay trading that dragon because they know it's going to at least keep their gold lead at what it was before the trade, actually a little bit higher, because Dragon does give more gold than turrets.
That is going to show in about 1,000 gold here, just above 1,300 gold in the favor of Team Solo Mid. Playing it quite smart at this point, but that turret for Vulcun is going to help them keep in that gold discrepancy. So going through a ward up to the top lane, trying to keep it safe. Looks like they're going to now try to pressure down the top turret as it is in favor of Vulcun.
Vulcan's really trying to get something going here. Obviously, Zuna cannot think about fighting his opposing AD carry and Wild Turtle for quite some time, so Vulcun instead is trying to just keep the lanes pushed and keep TSM fighting minions instead of Vulcun, because Vulcun wants to get later.
And it's kind of been, you know, what we talked about before. These lanes are quite hard to gank. Nothing's happened top lane. It's kind of been walk-in for everybody in the mid lane, and when they did get the gank, it's that's what Reginald started it with the Rune Prison, and then Odwin was able to come in. So everybody doing what they can. It's only been 1 kill in 8 minutes, but a lot of presence in every lane so far.
Yeah, and TSM, despite it only being 1-0 right now, I feel like is still looking for the fast win. That was a really good steal by Vulcun as long as they can get out of here, and I think they can.
Would be nice. That was the first time they've really tried to activate something in their favor. They had the bottom golem, and they aren't forgetting about trying to just get themselves small advantages here. So 9 minutes, they steal away the blue buff. They'll be keeping the timer on that for the 14 opponent blue.
Really solid. It keeps Reginald's blue away as well, which will keep his spamming down quite a bit on Ryze. Early game Ryze has very high mana cost, and the blue buff is quite required until he gets those Tear of the Goddess stacks. So
you need ammo from your machine.
Not only a well-executed steal, a good tactical steal.
We'll have to see what's going on in the jungle. 2 ability tomes coming into the hands of Odd1. Looks like he may be going for that Spectral Wraith build up. Psycho Sid could finally see a bit of action here in the top lane, the first gank towards this area.
And he might just have to concede this turret altogether. That minion wave is huge. Psycho Sid, while Kenning does have wave clear, it's only if he's able to run through the minion line, and that would have been suicide.
So TSM, knowing that they need to start battering down back at Vulcun, they will grab the second turret of the game. That's going to put them up another good chunk of gold. So they're definitely starting to grab an upper hand here, like you said, looking for the fast win, and they're triggering everything they need to make that happen.
TSM's playing a pretty confident game right now. They know they've gotten Mandatory Cloud on his back foot. He's going to be sitting back. That was really the early threat they would have had to deal with. It's like, what's Jace going to do in the mid game? Because they knew that Zuna isn't going to do stuff in mid game because he's Tristana, he's just due to farming. And then Psycho Sid is the threat they then have to deal with. That's why they put 3 people in Psycho Sid's lane. So TSM dealing with all of Vulcan's avenues right now, and that's the reason they have the 2,000 gold lead.
We see ManCloud trying to stack up that tier in the bottom lane. He's had free farm the whole time pretty much, and he's really been able to catch up to Reginald, and his tier is almost exactly the same as Reggie's too. So those guys are actually quite evening out for the amount of time ManCloud has just had here by himself.
Yeah, ManCloud's tier is actually at 240, whereas Reginald's is at 140. That just has a little bit to do with him getting the tier like with no boots. He hasn't been back to shop in forever. Jace is actually sitting on 1,600 gold, but it's also been because Vulcan's not doing much on the map right now, and that's another reason TSM is pushing down mid lane.
There's 1,500 gold in the hands of 3 members on Vulcan right now. Jace being back means he's not in this fight, so that gold is not present yet. They're still trying to hold this turret, but we can see how TSM is really taking it to him with their buys, but they still have 2K in the pockets as well.
Exactly, so TSM just trying to punish Vulcan for not shopping. They don't want Vulcan to be able to stall this game out, and once again, even though it looks slow because the kill score is 1-0, TSM is putting on a lot of turret-focused pressure right now.
Looks like they're going to continuously go down this mid lane, at least with Xpecial and Wild Turtle, to keep that vision on whoever is there. You can see the ward placed down by Vulcan to make sure they have vision of any lane leaves and where that gank might be going.
gotta see as well how long it takes for Zuna to actually get to his items and what path he takes. Right now, Zuna's sitting on the 1,700 gold. Just the Vamp Scepter. He could go for a BF Sword, or he could be going for a Blade of the Ruined King like we saw Maple Street doing in the Velocity game. That would give them a little bit more mid-game presence if he goes Blade of the Ruined King to maybe deal with the Draven.
Yeah.
Or if they're really going all in, he's going to slow build up to that Infinity Edge. It's going to be interesting.
In the end, that Blade of the Ruined King is going to help anyways. You're going to have a Rise, pretty tanky. Dyrus is going to get big, and the Odd One may start building that way once he gets his aura items in. Starts going for that HP on the Randuins. So we'll see 17,000 gold. TSM steadily holding this lead. There hasn't been really much of a change as now that they're kind of, you know, working things in their way.
And I actually feel like both of these teams are saying, all right, I'm okay if this goes to late game. Obviously, TSM is keeping the turret pressure more so because that's the style they play, and that's how they're trying to punish Vulcun since TSM's mid game is better. But the Rise, in particular, from Reginald, he personally has the confidence of him being able to take over the game if he gets his farm down, which is what he's trying to do here in mid lane.
And it looks like, you know, they know, obviously they know they're playing for the late game. They pick the champions, but even in the purchases right now, Kennen going for the Giant's Belt against the Giant's Belt of Dyrus instead of building for Azanias to get himself in the fight. He'll have it later.
Yeah, Psycho Sid might be going for a Rylai's really early on. Maybe trying to slow some people down because Dyrus is actually going Sunfire Cape / Randuins and not itemizing against Psycho Sid. I'm surprised Psycho Sid actually isn't trying to punish Dyrus more for Dyrus really disrespecting him a bit by not building any magic resist.
He's been just throwing himself into this lane. Maybe he's running it heavy on the Mastery's runes, but I don't think he changed anything up just to play against the Psycho Sids. Like you said, not really giving respect to that lane, and but Psycho Sid should be going harder. They start to pressure down towards this dragon area as it is up.
And now we might see the Shen coming in to benefit TSM because Psycho Sid has no way of matching Dyrus if they decide to fight in this area, and TSM should have the area control here. Bouncing between the Dragon and the mid lane could grant them one of the two objectives as Dyrus and Psycho Sid just kind of play with each other.
Well, if you really think about Dyrus's buy here, with what's going to happen, he will be able to mitigate everything he's fighting against. He's leaving that AP lane.
As long as he can get away from Psycho Sid, and Psycho Sid is not wanting to let him do that
all over
as TSM's running towards the Dragon. I think eventually, though,
Dyrus
Psycho Sid's lost vision of him, and TSM would be able to take this Dragon if they really want it, but they're baiting for a fight.
You can see how back and forth this is getting. Psycho Sid's calling that I can't see Dyrus. Now he can. Dyrus maybe teleporting in. He's backing off of the turret here. Odd One going very low onto this one. Will he decide to come in? No teleport from Dyrus. They play this one calmly.
And that's probably the reason Vulcun didn't decide to dive in despite the Odd One being very low, is because Psycho Sid was out of interruptible range for Shen's ultimate stand united, and it stopped them from being able to do that. But in all of Dyrus trying to poke back a lot, it may actually end up costing them this top turret as Psycho Sid presses on.
He goes hard, gets the turret. They needed that very much so. That's why they played it safe. You are very much correct. 2K is still the gold lead about with 2-2 in turrets. So it's still going to be spread across nicely. A 15-minute Oracle coming in for a special.
So pretty early Oracles for him. He could have finished his Ruby Sightstone, but the team in general has a lot of ward coverage already, and they may want to retake a bunch of free goodies around that Dragon area because they know how heavily warded it was if he goes down there. Also, TSM wants to get control of this blue again as the previous one had been stolen away. That's why he has the Oracles.
Looks like they are moving in for this one, cleaning it out, making sure no upper hand from Vulcun can be had here. Psycho Sid trying to get himself in. Thought we were going to see the flash engage, but there wasn't enough vision as that ward has been taken out. They play it safe.
Yeah, we're 15 minutes in, and I don't think we've seen an ultimate used other than a Rise ult to clear the wave. I guess X Special did use a box around the Dragon, but that is pretty much it. These guys are really saving their stuff for the first team fight.
Backing up onto this one, Zuna's the last one there, so they're going to keep turning tail for this. 102 CS to Rise's 88 in mid, so we've seen ManCloud now pull himself up on top. He's starting to get those items. He's now got himself over Reginald, and he was 3 levels behind, but he is still a level behind right now.
They're taking it a little bit slow, I'd have to say.
They are. They're making sure there's safety in
They're making sure
everything.
I think some of it has to do with TSM's 1 and 2 start. They really want to make sure they don't come out of this Super Week with a losing record, which means they have to win their next 2. TSM's the defending champs here, and they do have the lead here. They believe they're a better team than Vulcun, so they're making sure that they're not forcing themselves into any mistakes.
Mandatory Cloud and team gunning for it. He is the only one to go down so far. TSM was able to find him quite early, but it's been, like you said, just very safe play. Besides that, Reginald and team not wanting to give up that history of having the championship behind them. So they want this win so they're not forced into bad momentum. We know Vulcun uses that. Zuna said it before. And they really haven't created any this game yet, but neither team can. It's kind of odd.
Not really, and it's surprising considering when the team fights do start, they're going to be very clumped up just based on the way the team comps interact. Psycho Sid will be able to kind of go in and catch TSM's bruiser line in fights, but until someone decides to engage, neither team can really fight. The engage itself is all kind of in the hands of Vulcun. TSM can maybe go in with a Rune Prison or a Cocoon if the odd one lands, but it's not nearly as reliable or on demand as Vulcan's engage. And since Vulcan's been behind and wanting to get to late game, that's probably why it's only 1-0 right now.
This is really just that point of interest part. Dragon's down, nobody can go for Baron yet, and it's what can we focus? Everybody's kind of in that lull, and this is the focus. Shock Blast coming from the right side, huge damage, the clump up, but everybody's forced to flash as they sit on an under Psycho Sid's ultimate. He grabs a kill onto a special. Wild Turtle in the back line is just peeled out. Kennen goes down just with a little bit of health left. Reginald on the auto attack, and they continue to push mid.
Really strong amount of disengage, kind of surprise disengage by TSM. X-Special, even though he died in that fight, is probably the MVP. His box, most of the 5 pentagram walls of that pentagram actually broke off, doing full damage, keeping Reginald to the side safe and keeping Wild Turtle at a sliver for them to take on. That's why Vulcun was waiting so long for those fights, because they thought something like that would happen.
They were finally able to pressure it. Seeing Psycho Sid and ManCloud on the outer lanes gave them just enough initiation to really put the pressure on the turret and find a mistake from Vulcun there. So Reginald and crew playing that one smart. Probably got a little bit of a relief sigh after it, knowing that, you know, the fight can go in their favor here, and they've seen the damage that Vulcun has been able to bring out after their buys.
Absolutely, and there's still no Infinity Edge for Vulcun Suna. That fight didn't give them gold because they just got the 1 kill on a Psycho Sid and then lost objectives. They lost 2 turrets for that after the fight, and TSM's gold lead ballooned a little bit to 4,000, so that fight was bad, but the next fight could be worse.
A Locket of the Iron Solari coming up for the odd one. He likes cooldowns, so does Elise. It's going to be good. We'll see what they can pressure with that. We see Bloodwater walking around with ManCloud, trying to get a clear on all these wards that are being placed. 20 minutes into the game, TSM holds with 2 turrets ahead of Vulcun right now, but they're not seeming to pressure. It looks like it's going to be the 2nd tier turret in mid that's going to get the look.
And X-Specials bought another Oracles because they want to keep the control on. Once TSM has the 4 turrets down, Vulcan's going to be trying to ward up their own jungle so they can continue farming. That's why there's the Oracles from X-Special. That's why they're denying it, and that's why TSM is pushing strong up mid.
Mirror Mana being stacked up pretty close for Jace now. Looks like he's 740, 750, so it's going to be procced up in this fight. It will change. Looks like he will be able to guard the turret. Maybe. No, TSM goes very hard on this one, knowing Psycho Sid is back. A lot of area of effect not there for the team. His ultimate's up, and he tries to get back with the team. TSM knows to keep it safe.
And Vulcan's super apprehensive right now. They lost a lot of turret health. Half of their inhibitor turret just completely gone because Psycho Sid didn't necessarily get back in time. Good successful push for TSM. TSM actually has a choice here because there's a huge wave stacking while the Dragon's coming up. But I believe Dyrus' ultimate cooldown will sync fairly close. There's 20 seconds left on Stand United, so there will be a 10-second desync between the Dragon spawn and the Stand United, but I would be very surprised if Vulcan knew that exact time.
This is a big portion of the game here. The Mirror Mana is finished. There is enough gold in the hands of Zuna to finish that Infinity Edge, and there really isn't a lot of tankiness being built on Reginald yet, so they may be able to go through these fights if they can avoid Oddwin and Dyrus.
And Psycho Sid's doing his best to just keep lanes where Dyrus isn't pushed up to keep TSM on the run. But speaking of that, TSM's on the hunt for Psycho Sid. It's going to be tricky for him to escape this
He's going to try to walk this one out. He wants the turret. He's going to give it up for his life. He still has Surge. He's moving himself in a good position. He may go for the execute here. If he can get around, he probably will still running. But there's that speed surge coming from Turtle. Gets him with a stand aside, and this is going to be a takedown.
Yeah, Wild Turtle's going to be able to spam a lot of move speed. Reggie pops his ult to go, and Vulcan is running for Baron, actually. TSM doing the same. Reginald is going to try to finish off with the Draven ulti.
Hit him!
Eventually they're going to get him, but Vulcan kind of wanted to fight. TSM is all over this play, though. Look at this guy.
This is fantastic. Ring around the rosy with Reginald in his own base right now. They're going for the fight. They have had enough of it. TSM says, let's do this if they don't have that area of effect once again. Dyrus goes down. It may have been too much. We see the repel. It goes down onto Psycho Sid. Actually, ManCloud goes down. Psycho Sid previously, and they're going to continue here. Zuna goes down. The Volatile Spider coming out. Xmithy and Bloodwater forced away. And that Baron attempt may now be Team Solo Mids.
Really good flank there by TSM. Zuna was trying to go for Dyrus. They were trying to do the pincer move, and the odd one landed the cocoon right onto the face of Zuna. So a great pick off there. First real fight of the game is very scattered, and Reginald actually makes it all the way back for this Baron attempt. So they should be able to take this one out if Xmithy doesn't try for a Miracle Steal.
And this is when they need to get that burst. It's going to be so tough for Vulcun to climb over this mountain that TSM is going to get with Baron. Yeah, Zuna finished that Infinity Edge, but he still isn't bringing the attack speed that's coming from the other side of the map yet.
And this is a very throwback game for TSM as well. They're just keeping it slow. They're winning kind of just by slowly being better. There's no miraculous plays. It's kind of like, oh, here's another TSM victory. That's why they're the best, is what we would say back in Season 2. And it's looking similar to this before because nothing miraculous has happened. They're just slightly and slowly outplaying their opponents.
It's steady play. Dyrus really hasn't been in the top lane. He's participating in a lot more fights than ulting into the fights. It's been up for quite a while. And we've said it a few times, but ults really aren't being used almost. It's like you'll see a few, and then it's just everybody disengage until they get to that late game. Zuna didn't want anything of that last fight, and we saw how fast he went down.
And a lot of the times, the presence of the ultimate, just knowing that it's there, is better than actually using the spell. With things like TF ultimate or Stand United, it's like, we can't do anything, guys, because Shen ultimate is up. We don't want to do anything here because Dyrus could be here. We should deal with Dyrus, and as long as he keeps that threat up, Vulcan's constricted.
Definitely playing on their mind right now in the mental gameplay. 6-2. Fly down mid to see what Vulcun is going to put up to defend this push. We have Draven just coming up on the backside. That is Wild Turtle. There, Dyrus finally off on the side. So now the pressure even playing more on their mind that Dyrus will be coming in and not already in the fight.
And at this point, Dyrus is also just making sure the lanes are pushing together. There's a huge wave, actually, you can see on the mini-map over in the top lane that I'm surprised Dyrus isn't dealing with, but that means I think TSM wants to go a little bit quickly. They may just all pile on another turret.
Heading down towards that. Yeah, they have Dyrus there. He's going to back. He's going to grab the bottom lane now. They said, you guys need to take this. I need to soak that up.
So a smart, another slow play by TSM. When they land the stun, they're not going because they're like, oh yeah, by the way, Dyrus isn't here with us. But that is a huge amount of damage coming down from Reginald. More so than other players, Reginald will blow ultimates on turrets for the harass, and that was a great example of how much you can do just by using an ult.
He's only waiting on 30-some seconds to get that ultimate back. A little plus over that. Odd one. Going to be able to take down the turret with the rest of his team. Behind the Dyrus, cleaning up the top. They are still ready to fight. TSM is just bringing this tank all around the map.
One of the slowest kill-wise games we've had so far in the LCS, but a very well-played one by TSM thus far. Really taking the options away from Vulcun, as far as I can tell.
Slow and steady wins the race. TSM used to be one of those teams that would give up Dragon because it could be a pitfall in the early part of the game. Here, they've made decisions of when to take Dragon and when to take Baron, and they've been absolutely perfect. Psycho Sid getting caught out there hiding in the fog of war. That ward over the wall gave him the upper hand.
So much ward control by TSM, just making sure Vulcun wasn't there. Psycho Sid wanted to get ahead of the game and clear off a wave with a turret, and ends up just crushing their own base.
Unfortunate. They made sure Psycho Sid didn't get a lot of action in the early part of the game, being one to win it for them last time on his cannon play. Dyrus played it safe. Props to him on that. And from there, they've really been able to pressure everything. The ult comes out from Sejuani. Bloodwater on the backside just trying to slow them so Zuna can stay in a safe spot. But no, right to the backside. He gets the wild growth too. The final amount of peel comes in. It's going to be big. He has to stay alive with his own barrier. Flashes out of that one. One more attack coming in. It's Dyrus just a second too late. Oh, I thought that was Zuna again. You were going to be crazy.
And that was just desperation time for Vulcun. Now Psycho Sid's trying to hold up. The inhibitors still haven't been cleared for TSM, and their AD carry is dead. So the inhibitor's going down more slowly, but I think TSM's going to get it.
This inhibitor turret, and then they move to the mid inhibitor, now to the top inhibitor. Jack, this is not good when you can't be pushed out of the base.
Exactly. That Baron regen is what's keeping them in, as well as the huge lead they've accumulated over the last 26 minutes. It's a 4v3, and Vulcun, it's got to be desperation.
One of the fastest games we may be seeing here. 26 minutes in, Team Solo Mid once again just dropped somebody 100-0. This time it's Zuna. Psycho Sid back into the mix. These guys are just trying to clean up the mess right now.
And it shows, even though TSM had had a bit of a back and forth in that fight, how little pressure TSM has been under this entire game. Reginald, through all that team fighting, just knew he still had flash up. Zuna was completely caught off guard by the flash rune prison from Reginald's Rise, and that's the reason they were able to unlock that second inhibitor and extra wave of super minions.
And it's almost spelling, not behind for Zuna, but just the situation he's in. He's got to build the Last Whisper right away. He doesn't build the extra speed off of Xerx. He's relying on that rapid fire, which is, you know, Kobe said yesterday, it's 3 recurve bows coming in if you activate it. You know, if you just wanted to put 3 recurve bows in your pocket,
it helps a little bit.
You hit Q, but he still hasn't been able to build anything, and he knows he's behind on the damage he's able to create on Dyrus, Odd One, and soon to be Reginald once he gets some defense in there.
And even though we're 27 minutes into the game, it's still not late for Vulcun, because 27 minutes for 33,500 gold is a very low number. They've been getting pushed, out-farmed, and outplayed by TSM, and it's just a continuation of that as TSM looks to round up all of them. That's the 3rd Oracles of the game X-Special's picked up.
That's quite a bit of gold he's putting into those, but it's giving him all the control. Right, it's a complete return on investment at the end of the day for him. 28 minutes into this one, a 10-3 as Team Solo Mid able to find those last few kills in that bottom engagement with the inhibitors that they took out. 10-3 as they push this top one now.
And I think it's a matter of time here because there's 2 waves of super minions pushing for TSM. When those waves get closer to the base, Zuna's going to be going off to farm them. If Vulcun could somehow hold this for about 15 more minutes, then Zuna would get enough farm off of those waves. But as soon as Zuna leaves, TSM's going to dive, and I think they're going to get inhibitor number 3.
Zuna does. No, actually it's going to be Jace trying to come back over. ManCloud getting into position now. That wave in the bottom is so gigantic. You are right, it is going to have to be Zuna. Why don't they keep ManCloud there to poke back?
This is just the choice they've made. They feel like ManCloud can make it back over faster because of his move speed from Jace.
All right.
And that's probably the reason, but it's not stopping both waves. ManCloud constantly on a back and forth, and here goes that turret. A lot of damage.
Not even a siege wave. They're able to just kind of waltz in on this one. You know, we heard the other day Zuna saying Wild Turtle, or not Wild Turtle, but Draven not being the best at hitting turrets because he can't move too much, and that may give Vulcun the upper hand, but so much damage being traded back. That desperate power from Rise so big as he comes into the fight, and it looks, oh, actually putting it on now to fight it and continue the 3 kills they have. Dyrus getting out just by the skin of his teeth.
And he was just tanking the turret up, which was about a hit away, because TSM knows this game is going to be won right here.
That damage was absolutely ridiculous on the front burst of the fight. Nothing they could even give something back on. Trying to give their own medicine down to Wild Turtle there. Cannot get it. ManCloud is forced back onto the fountain. They're just using everything as the Nexus goes down. And Team Solo Mid finds the win over Vulcun.
TSM with a very demanding victory, just crushing Vulcun. This is the most one-sided game they've had, most impressive win of the early Super Week for them. 13 kills to 4, under 30 minutes. They had a 13,000 gold advantage. They were not close to losing that game at any point. Very controlled.
Super Week is only showing us that it is an anything can happen season. We saw Dignitas get obliterated in a match and then obliterate somebody. Team Solo Mid was looking a little lackluster, and then they were like, no, wheelhouse strategy. Let's go back to this. And everybody is kind of just surprising